Greetings, YouTube. My wife and I went to her 20th class reunion this past weekend. She graduated from high school in 1989. And quite frankly, it wasn't a bad time. It was well organized, it was run fairly smoothly, the people were decent. I actually met someone there who I didn't think was going to show up, so I actually knew someone besides my wife, which was kind of nice. The people I did meet, friends of hers mostly, were pretty decent. I even got to spend some time talking about some very geeky things with a man who works on carbon nanotubes, which is very cool. His company makes a water filter system that is one of the most efficient and cheapest in the world, and he's currently working on the idea of making carbon nanotube lines, thread essentially, that will eventually allow us to have space elevators. Now that's cool. So overall, the evening was rather pleasant. It was a little stressful for her, old memories coming back to haunt you kind of thing. But overall, it was a success. We went, we had a good time, food wasn't too horrible. We went home, no major hassles. Didn't even get lost getting there or back, which I really appreciated. Now, we went to my 20th anniversary back in 2002, so I graduated high school in 1982. That didn't go so well. It wasn't well organized. There were 3 people I really wanted to see, and none of them showed up. It was a kind of mixer, no sit-down meal. They had some appetizers of some variety, I believe. An open bar, of course. And what stunned me about the whole thing is that the cliques that existed in 1982, that functioned all the way up through senior year, even though in senior year some of those barriers were beginning to break down, those cliques still existed in 2002. 20 years later, and my classmates were still just as cliquish as they were in high school. I'm not perfect, but I've grown since I graduated from high school. And what struck me about my high school reunion was that a lot of the people I went to school with didn't. Their growth curve was flat, which I found disturbing. I also found disturbing that quite a few of them decided to wear fashions that looked like they came out of 1982, along with the hairstyles to go with them. And I got the impression this was not something they had done just for the reunion. But one of the things that disturbed me the most was one of the girls there, or women I should say. She was a girl last time I'd seen her in senior year in high school, and she'd been one of the beautiful people. An actually attractive, pretty decent individual that was one of the popular kids just because she was very good looking. And it appears that she'd put a lot of value on that, because she had spent a lot of time and effort and money between 1982 and 2002 in attempting to hold on to those looks. She went face to face, mano a mano with Father Time, and Father Time will always win. In essence, she looked like a worn-out porn star. She had mutilated herself. She had ceased to look like the person she was in high school. I would have loved to have seen what she looked like if she'd actually aged. My wife has aged well. Some of her friends have aged well. There were some attractive people at my wife's reunion. And they're all 37 to 39. And that's okay. People age, and you can still look good at that. Heck, believe it or not, I look better now at 44 than I did at 34. But this woman at my reunion just depressed me. It was like somebody snuffed out a candle when I saw her. And under 2 hours, my wife and I looked around the room, realized there was no reason to stay there, and we left. I did bump into an old girlfriend there, and that was kind of cool, because I didn't expect to see her. She had graduated a year early to go to school early, but she decided to come to the reunion just because it was going to be the year she would have graduated. So It was a waste of my time for the most part. That woman and one other guy were the only highlights of the entire night, and they weren't frankly worth hanging out. In fact, without even telling each other, my wife and I, and this woman I mentioned, my old girlfriend, left at the same time. I guess we got equally disgusted with the whole process. I don't know what class reunions have been for you, or what they will be for you if you haven't had one yet. My father mentioned to me the other day that his 45th was just as bad as my 20th. That the cliques that existed in his high school senior year were still there 45 years later. Some things, I guess, don't ever change.